a quick first look at a few new fragrances for my collection from Athoor, Fragrance World and Rayhaan, including apparently a clone of none other than Rasasi Hawas of all things. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and today I'll be taking a very quick look at a few new scents for my collection, two of them from Athoor, one from Fragrance World and one from the brand of Rayhaan. Now I'm going to start with the one that comes from the brand of Rayhaan. It's called Oud Noir for him and it's part of the Oud collection, a line of fragrances. It comes in a plain looking box, just like any other fragrance from the brand of Rayhaan. And this is how the bottle looks. Again, it retains the same familiar bottle design of all fragrances from the brand of Rayhaan. They seem to have this minimalistic approach when it comes to bottle design and packaging, and something that I actually appreciate, to be honest, because nowadays a lot of the other Middle Eastern brands rely on very lavish presentations and unnecessarily big boxes and bottles and whatnot, and Rayhaan's more minimalistic approach I kind of actually like. This is the sprayer in action. It's a good sprayer. Another thing that's also a common thing when it comes to the brand of Rayhaan. Now the scent of this fragrance, this is a clone but with a heavy twist. The fragrance that this has been very heavily inspired by, at least in my opinion, is Tom Ford's Oud Wood. But again, it doesn't feel like a straight up clone. This is more like a distant relative to the original fragrance from Tom Ford. It still relies on a lot of those woody notes, just like the original fragrance. You'll get some sandal oud, you'll get some agar oud. But what I find different here compared to the original one is that this lacks that leather undertone that I get out of the original one and all the straight up clones of the original one. This also feels a tad bit sweeter than the fragrance from Tom Ford, and just feels a little bit greener, sort of a grassy green, if that makes sense. This feels less spicy, less sharp than the original fragrance. It feels less woody as well at the same time. This is again like a twist, like a more greener, slightly sweeter, and less leathery twist on the original scent. But if you are a fan of the original fragrance from Tom Ford, you'll probably end up liking this one. At least that I would imagine. Again, just don't approach this one as being a straight up clone. Also, I pick up a sort of a slight incense vibe out of this one, something that I don't get out of the original scent. Performance, at least so far from my initial testing, has been more on the moderate side. Probably around about the 6 to 7 hour mark, and also at least from my initial testing this seems to be more on the quieter, more moderate side when it comes to projection as well. The quality is decent, the price is very affordable, but still I don't think this is the best clone of Oud Wood that you can actually get. Now let's move on to the second fragrance that I'm going to take a look today, which is called Jour, and it comes from the brand of Fragrance World. It's part of the same line of fragrances that also contains the fragrances named Nuit and Soir as well. Nuit is a clone of Creed Aventus, Soir is a clone of Grand Soir from MFK. This is also a clone, Jour is also a clone. And I'll tell you in a second what it is actually cloning. This is how the bottle looks, exactly the same design as the other members of the line. This one though coming in a bluish color, and that reflects the color of the original fragrance that this has been inspired by as well. Good sprayer. Now this is citrusy, this is fresh, this is green, this is feels a little bit aquatic as well, and the inspiration for this fragrance comes from the brand of Dolce & Gabbana, and it's called Light Blue Forever. And this smells pretty similar to the original one, minus one little thing. In the opening here I sort of pick up a strange sort of a sour vibe out of this fragrance, something that I don't necessarily like a lot, to be honest. In fact, I don't enjoy it at all. The original one smells a little bit more lively, smells a little bit more citrusy, a little bit brighter. This just has a bit of an funky undertone in the opening, a bit of funky sourness in the opening that ruins a little bit the experience, at least personally for me. Now luckily enough, this sourness, this funky note in the opening lasts for a few minutes, and then this actually becomes more pleasant and actually becomes closer to the original fragrance. Along with that aquatic freshness, you'll get a bit of citruses. There's a bit of fruity sweetness. There's some ambery sweetness. There's some ouds on the dry down. A bit of greenness as well. But again, in the first few minutes, there's just this funky vibe out of this fragrance that I don't really like that much. Now, I don't know if it's the way that's the way this fragrance has been designed, or whether it has something to do with maceration and stuff like that. I have no idea. I'll definitely give this one a bit of time to settle and just to see if that funkiness goes away with time. But definitely the opening here feels a little bit further away than I would have expected it to feel compared to the original fragrance. On the dry down actually becomes closer. It's a fresh aquatic, slightly sweet citrusy fragrance that's masculine and definitely should work great in warm weather. Performance wise, at least so far from my initial impressions, again seems to be more on the moderate side when it comes to total longevity and also when it comes to the actual projection as well. Now let's move on to the two fragrances from the brand of Athoor Al Alam. Both of them are called Dastoor, I think. Yeah, but one of them comes in this sort of an violet color, and the other one in green. The violet one is, both of them I think they're marketed as being unisex, but this violet one definitely, is leaning to the feminine side. And to be honest, I'm not sure what this exactly is cloning. I'm pretty sure that it's a clone of something out there. This is how you open up the box, and then this is how the bottle looks. Both bottles look nice, this one and the other one, the green one, and both have really nice heft. The caps are plastic but with metallic coating, so as far as the presentation goes, actually both of them are quite nice. Good sprayers as well. The scent itself, again, I'm not sure what this is cloning, but this definitely smells feminine, and the opening is quite fruity. Now there are a few fruity notes. To my nose, definitely the note of cherry stands out a little bit. There's some maybe something like a berry note going on somewhere in the background. It opens up also a bit spicy thanks to a saffron note, but it also feels woody. And to my nose, the dominant notes in the opening are the nose of the note of rose, definitely a very strong rose note, along with some ouds and that cherry note, and that's for the opening. Maybe a hint of incense somewhere in the background. The opening almost smells a little bit like a cherry cola with some added rose note. Then on the dry down, this becomes a little bit sweeter. Some of that spiciness goes away. The ouds kick a little bit more on its dry down, and there's also an ambery sweetness on the dry down, and this retains this kind of sort of a cherry cola vibe. It smells quite interesting, but that maybe if this one didn't have the rose note, I could have easily called this one a unisex fragrance, but because of the addition of that strong rose note and the way that it works together with the other notes, this definitely leans heavily to the feminine side. It's an interesting scent that, if you like notes like cherry, like berries, like rose, like saffron, you could probably check this one out. Performance wise, at least from my initial wearings so far, one or two of them, this seems to be quite a good lasting fragrance. The strongest one out of all three that I've showed you already, also projects better than the previous two. But something that you have to keep in mind is that both these fragrances from Athoor Al Alam are a little bit more expensive. Right now I think they go for somewhere between 40 to 45 euros, so close to the $60 mark. And now let's move on to the last fragrance featured in today's video, which is again from Athoor Al Alam, part of the very same line of fragrances as the other one, sharing exactly the same box and bottle design, only this one having this sort of a greenish tint to the glass of the bottle. Other than that, looks pretty much identical. The accent color here is silver rather than the gold one that you'll get with the other one. Again, good sprayer. And as I said in the beginning of this video, apparently one of those four fragrances that I'm talking about today is a clone of Rasasi Hawas that I have over here. Now, depending on where you look up this online, some places market this one as being a clone of Hawas Ice. Some of them are marketing it as being a clone of the OG Hawas. Now, to my nose, this smells closer to the OG Hawas rather than Hawas Ice. and actually smells quite nice and quite similar to Rasasi Hawas. I don't know if we actually need a clone of Rasasi Hawas, which price-wise is almost matches the price of Rasasi Hawas. This is a few euros cheaper than the OG Rasasi Hawas around where I live, but they're pretty identical, almost identical price-wise. So I don't know what's the point in actually doing a clone of Hawas and you know, selling it for the same amount of money as the original one. But this is very fruity, it's very fresh, it's aquatic. It's sweet, it's youthful, it's playful, pretty much the same things that you get out of the OG Hawas. Now the opening here is almost identical to Hawas, but after a minute or two, this one, the one from Athoor starts to develop a bit of spiciness and a bit of warmth that the original one is missing. For I don't know, for a few minutes, some of that freshness and aquaticness, playfulness of the original fragrance goes away. And then it comes back a few minutes later. Again, I don't know if that's down to the fact that this is a brand new bottle that needs some maceration, but this is the way that this is different compared to Hawas. It's just at a certain point of its life, it just feels a little bit spicier and a little bit more warmer and sort of a slightly less playful sweet compared to Hawas. But the opening is very similar, and then the late dry down is again very similar to Hawas. And this actually smells pretty nice if you like Hawas, if you like fragrances like Invictus Aqua, for example. This should be right up your alley for sure. Quality seems to be very nice, performance is also nice. Not exactly the same as my bottle of Hawas. This maybe lasts for an hour or two less than Hawas itself and projects slightly less, but again keep in mind that my bottle of Hawas is a few years old, whereas this is a brand new bottle, just opened that up a few days ago. Other than that though, very similar to Hawas. Again, I don't know what's the point in this. Do we really need a clone of Rasasi Hawas? But that's what this one is actually doing. So guys, in today's video I shared with you my initial impressions on 4 new scents from my collection. 2 of them from Athoor Alarm, 1 from Fragrance World and 1 from Rayhaan. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.